You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and this is a conversation between myself and a fella called Dave Couper. He's the excellent bassist in Brisbane-based Caligula's Horse. The reason for the chat, well, there was a number of reasons for the chat. They've got a very small tour coming up, or 3 dates, so I shouldn't really call it a tour, but 3 dates, Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. Let me read them out, actually. Friday the 3rd of August, they're playing in Sydney. Then it's Saturday the 11th, they're playing at Woolly Mammoth in Brisbane. And then Thursday the 16th, they are playing at Howler in Melbourne. They're also going overseas, so they're going to Europe for a run of shows, very big shows actually, and Dave and the band are obviously very excited about that. You'll hear Dave's enthusiasm through the conversation. They've also got a re-release of some earlier albums on vinyl, which is pretty cool. And they've got the album that they released last year. If I was a bit more organised, I'd have a copy of it in front of me right now, so let me find out what it's called. We talk about it through the chat, but I'll just rather tell you what it's called now. Hang on. It's called In Contact. There you go. All right, so here he is, Mr. Dave Couper. David, Andy Mackay-Smith calling for our chat. How are you?
Very well, Andy. Yourself?
Plugging away. It's bloody freezing though, isn't it? Now, you're in Brisbane, aren't you?
I'm in Brisbane, so it's we get the mild cold. Where are you, Andy?
Sunny coast.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
So it's not too bad. Maroochydore.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So we're not used to it though. So it's 11 degrees at the moment, and it's a clear night, which generally means it's going to go down to God knows what it's go down to. I'll try and plug. I'm just looking at my trusty Apple iPhone app at the moment. Oh, it's not going to be too cold. It's only going to go down to 9 degrees. It's not like the other day when it went down to 5 or whatever it was.
The lowest I've seen in the Uber car at 2 o'clock in the morning has been 8 so far. I think so.
Oh God, yeah, gotcha. Is that what you're doing? Is it on the side?
That's my. That's pretty much what I do when the band isn't. Yeah, I was working in retail for JB Hi-Fi for a very long time, and I was sort of doing a little bit of Uber on the side after once we started touring a lot more back, 2015, 16. So I started doing Uber and yeah, just come to realise recently that it's actually been much better for money, scheduling, lower stress levels, all that sort of stuff.
Oh God, yeah.
You think some people will be really stressed, but actually I really like driving though, so it's going well. But
yeah, I don't blame you, mate. Yeah, well, retail's a very stressful job, isn't it? Oh, it's a heck of a thing to be dealing with the public in that way. I know you're still dealing with the public in Uber, but they tend to be more motivated to, how can I say this, be happier. And retail, I think you're dealing with all and sundry.
It was definitely getting all and sundry towards the end there, I can tell you that. And same, because I've worked in the CD and vinyl section for many, many years, and it was good to sort of have a bit of a finger on the slowly dying pulse of hard copy. Although obviously vinyl picked up a little bit, we probably haven't tipped over the peak in Australia yet. I think it's maybe other places, but I guess we'll come to that because it's fine in Europe, and it's good given we're doing the reissues for the first 2 albums, which is phenomenal. I'm particularly looking forward to seeing the artwork lavish large on the bigger platters, and I think the River's End is going to sound phenomenal, particularly on LP. So yeah, I look forward to that. So.
Well, you've segued in nicely into a question that I've got for you then, because I'm really taken with the artwork that you've organised for In Contact. Now, I haven't read who did it, but it looks a lot like Reg Mombassa.
It's interesting. I don't know if Connor, the the artist, I don't see. Looking at his website and having chatted to him a little bit, I wouldn't know too much about his direct influences. I can definitely see what you're seeing there. They're really, really cool. I think basically Sam, when we were looking for artists, he was just Googling, I think it's impressionist sort of stuff or whatever the style, and he came across something that Connor had done and delved a bit deeper into his work, and basically thought, that's the do we want to convey the themes in the metaphorical way that we do. So he's a really lovely guy too, which is really cool. So I mean the art was actually done as proper oil paintings, which, and then obviously we took it from there. But a lovely pieces of work, and probably one of the nicest people I've had communication with from a business perspective and in general since I've been in the band. Like really, just that very very the Northern Irish character, but just lovely guy and easy to do. Yeah, so I hope that all goes well for him as well.
So let's keep talking about the album. I read a review early on from Metal Injection, who were effusive in their praise. They gave it 8.5 out of 10. So I'm talking about the album in context still. It's been received really well. I remember when it was announced, and I got the emails from Chris about this time last year, I think, wasn't it, or was it toward the end of last year? Time flies either way, but it was last year sometime. And look, you get a lot of media from all sorts of wonderful agents out there that are doing their bit to promote albums and releases. And look, your one, it was the artwork actually that caught my eye initially. But then when I started listening to the album, of course, there's terms like prog, but you seem to be a part of this modern revitalisation. I shouldn't even call it a revitalisation because I don't know whether we've had it before, but there's just this epic, would you call it metal? Let's just call it hard rock. It's just, I'm trying to...
And I say on what you're saying right now, we really need a term for it, don't we? There is a missing word to rock, metal and prog. Unfortunately, I don't think the word alloy is going to work, even though it's obviously
well,
literal description, but figuratively, I don't think enough people would sort of cotton onto it. But I know exactly what you're saying.
You know where I'm headed. And we Australians,
it's part pop, it's part all sorts of things. It's definitely prog, it's definitely rock. There's light folk moments. It's definitely got everything, but it's not. I think. In the not-too-distant future, Sam will have a bit to say about the term prog itself, so people look out for that. But, it's got a bit of everything, and the reception. It's really interesting. Like, you may have noticed, I don't think we've had any, and nor do we expect it to have any serious radio play for the singles like Little Song and Songs for No One in Australia. But that notwithstanding, I mean, the response from around the world has been absolutely tremendous. And we're seeing, funny, I'll come back to the JB thing because it took me until basically the week after I left my job to sign up for Spotify. I've been a holdout for a long time, but primarily so I could sort of start to get an idea of where people are listening to it, or how many people are listening to it through this mechanism and where and so on. And it's been staggering to watch, actually, the numbers on the monthly listeners, the regular listeners, and increase at a very nice canter over the time since In Contact was released, and also to see where some of these fans are as well. So, I mean, obviously, looking forward to the Australian shows, and Europe's going to be phenomenal. But I'll tell you what, Santiago, Chile is number one on the...
Is that right?
On the list of our Spotify fans with 1,200, and then London, and then it's we're trying to get the full list at the moment. But the fact is that right now, if everyone shows up to those shows, one show in each of those cities on any of those tours, it's going to be an absolute vindication of the way we've approached it. And with the new prog esoteric again, NEW, hyphen, whatever you want to say.
Yep.
How do I phrase it? Look, when I started uni, I did Bachelor of Music 18 years ago, and at QUT, and what dudes introduced great guitarists, good dudes introduced me to Dream Theater, and that's where it all started for me. But enough, given that was the year 2000, and they showed me images and words from 1992, and
great album, yeah.
There's a lot of great bands who are in and around the periphery of that sort of stuff at the time, but it didn't feel like that the kind of cohesive wave of that really good mix of rock, prog, and metal that is now definitively occurring, both from from a European perspective, or inside out as well, with Aiken and Leprous particularly, our label mates, our good mates, and so on. Hopefully we get to play some shows with them more frequently in the future. But I mean, that is the new wave. Because I mean, they've done 4 or 5 albums each, as have we, and continuing to get albums out quickly and tour more and more frequently, and the numbers are building, and there's definitely a sense of cohesion without being, you wouldn't say each of the bands sounds exactly the same or anything like that. But yeah, there's definitely it definitely feels like that wave. And it's kind of the same thing for Australia in a broader sense as well. You've probably had this conversation a million times about the absolutely astonishing calibre of Australian rock, prog, metal right now. You've got Voyager, you've got 12 Foot Ninja, you've got Neighbour of Ascaris, you've got Circles as a new album coming out. I thought the Sky are fantastic. And you've got all the old stages as well, the ones that are still making the Carnivals and DLCs. You've got, the comeback bands, Cog and Butterfly Effect and all that sort of stuff, and Mammal's coming. And
Super
new bands
Ice to
coming
come back, yeah.
It's slightly underneath, whatever level between that and Carnival and beyond. Not to all the metalcore stuff, obviously, which is huge. But Australia's just everyone overseas at the moment is saying, is there something in the water down there?
No, I agree. We've got the top metalcore band being Parkway Drive. We've got the top deathcore band being Thy Art Is Murder. You could put yourselves, Dead Letters, Circus.
Well, weird now, the grindcore stuff as well. That's not prog, but it's still interesting and different. Really well done.
But I understand your point, and you're talking about hard rock and heavy metal, and it's a point that I've made repeatedly when I've been interviewing Australian artists, and I think a lot of them have been bashful. So I'm really glad that you're echoing my sentiments, and where you understand. Okay, yeah, we're at the forefront of, I don't know what it is, but some sort of a revival of just great modern rock and roll, whether it be any of the metal genres, any of the rock genres. Australia's producing some brilliant stuff, and it's really interesting that you found via Spotify that not the majority of your audience, but the number one is Santiago. Because I find with my podcast series that the majority of my listeners are in the USA. So the point is their gaze is directed toward us. They're looking at us. And they're wondering what we're doing. So for little old me with my podcast series, most of the people who listen to this will be in the States. I feel really privileged to have an audience over there.
If you spoke Spanish, Andy, I suspect you get even more in Santiago and Mexico City and Buenos Aires, and of course Brazil's Portuguese speaking. But I mean, it's. I had I'll come back to Uber. I had a Chilean passenger, a young lady. And I had a curiosity because I'd noticed, I think it was just after I'd noticed, joined Spotify and seen all the numbers and seen Santiago in pole position there. And I said to her, look, is there some explanation you can provide to me? I don't know if you listen to metal, but what can you tell me about the culture in Chile? And she basically said, there's 3 really very good, dedicated hard rock and metal stations that are, not internet radio stations, like actual FM. Yeah,
terrestrial radio stations. Yeah.
So it's like we take away Triple M and Triple J and B105 and replace them with these 3 stations, and the whole thing would be very different. That's what they have over there. They're still playing all the classics, but they're also playing more intricate and more modern stuff on a more frequent basis. I mean, I respect Triple M probably the most of our stations here, and we've had a bit of play in the Australian sort of stuff, but I know there are 2 very large Australian rock bands from the past that get a lot more play than everybody else, and unfortunately in terms of the Australian content requirements for radio, I know all the pop stations are completely subverting that. But in their own way, by just not playing anything Australian, probably because there is nothing Australian that's really good as pop at the moment. But when it comes to the rock side of things, it's very easy to just go, cool, we'll play AC/DC and Cold Chisel, and that gets us 40% of our content.
Yeah. Well, just on that too, I sorry to interrupt you, but I interview a lot of pop artists and indie artists as well, and there is some stuff coming from Perth, mate. Simon and Garfunkel, for example. There are a ton of bands coming out of Perth that, as far as I'm concerned, mate, Taylor Swift should be on the phone to, or whoever writes Taylor Swift songs, if she doesn't, should be on to these guys and girls over in Perth saying, what are you doing, and help me write the next Taylor Swift album or something. There are some really top quality it's world-class stuff that's coming out of that city at the moment. So, again, I'll echo my earlier sentiments. I'm just so glad that you're picking up and you feel as though we are representing very strongly on the musical front, and I agree with you too about Triple M. I've got to be careful about what I say because obviously I'm going to broadcast this on 4ZZZ, but I'm not a fan of Triple J, and I haven't been a fan of Triple J for a very long time. It's like this exclusive club of people that don't seem to give a shit about some wonderful artists in Australia. I could be completely wrong, but that's the perception I've formed.
It's without being in the mechanisms of the label, of the radio stations. It's hard to know, but there's what would be nice if there were 2 or 3 or 4 other available slots on the FM bandwidth. Even though I know it's we're in the age of the internet and it should be a bit different nowadays. But if there were 2 or 3 or 4 different slots that were dedicated to particular styles instead of being about location. I know radio's a hard thing because obviously you guys we even have different radio stations in Maroochydore than what we do in Brisbane.
Sure.
And what because it works, but it'd be nice if there was some dedication. It's cool to see. I'm really impressed, for example, with Tim at the Faction trying to do the internet radio thing on behalf, and of course Hoagie for a long time.
Hoagie's been fantastic, hasn't he? Yeah.
And Lockie's doing what he can at with the metal stuff at Triple J as well. But so that on those 3 guys are incredibly.
Doesn't that tell you something about Triple J? They give metal. Is it 2 hours? 2 hours a week?
Think it's 3.
3. So 3 hours. Forgive me. They give metal dedicated 3 hours a week. When I'm damn bloody sure a lot of the 18 to 24-year-olds, so the demographic that they're comprise the majority of their listenership, there'd be a ton of hard rock and metal fans in that demographic that listen to them playing all sorts of other styles of music. Caligula's Horse, as far as I'm concerned, should be on at 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning, drive time on Triple J.
I'd love to hear that. If I were awake at 7 o'clock in the morning, any at all, that other than I've come home and have fallen asleep after being out at 4 o'clock in the morning. And anyway.
Yeah, no, I get you. But it's the point stands, mate, doesn't it? Really, that you're a lot of things to a lot of different people, but overall, you're very accessible. You're a very easy band to put on in the car when you're driving. I can tell you that, and that's really important to me because I do a lot of bloody driving. So I was able to listen to your album a few times over in the car, driving back to the Gold Coast and then coming back up, and that's usually a very good indicator for me because usually if I haven't turned it off by Biwa, I know I'm doing pretty bloody well with an album. As soon as I get to that turn off there where you're at Nudgy, the gateway turn off there, if I've still got it on by then I've got something that I think I'm really going to enjoy.
Nice.
So you've been able to do that, mate. But I mean, God, I'm only one person. You've got a legion of fans that are knocking at your door. So tell us about what the plans are. I know the album's been out now for quite some time, but is there any further promotion that you think you guys need to do in order to build the audience?
We've got the 3 Australian shows coming up. It's a little special full album performances, and then some fan requested stuff that we haven't played as much lately, which is going to be fantastic. We're really looking forward to playing some of the stuff we haven't played from In Contact before, and doing it in sequence is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I think I'm just looking forward to getting to Graves and particularly and doing because even though it's the 16 minutes track at the end of a very, very hectic what will be a hectic set, it's definitely an energy lift. Of course, Cannon's been up before that too. It's just phenomenal. In terms of promotion, we're really looking forward to a massive headline and good festival tour of Europe coming up in October. Obviously, we had the first European tour as a support act in 2015, and then we did nine very fun, interesting dates last year in June. Got to play with Opeth, got to play with Planet Salvation.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
All that, which was just, particularly the excitement for Josh and Adrian joining the band recently to go on their first overseas tour was it was a very, very cohesive and well-functioning and happy time. And I suspect even though that logistically it'll be a little more difficult, obviously, with the 4 or 5 weeks of this. But some of the places we're going and playing for and playing headline shows properly in Europe for the first time. So I mean, I know that London show will be huge. I know Paris will be huge. We'll go back to Barcelona. We're going to see play a few places we haven't played before as well. We'll get to go to Portugal and Croatia by the looks of it.
Nice.
Which is going to be cool. Don't say anything about the football. I'm watching the second half on replay right now.
I won't say a word. My wife's half Croatian, by the way, so you can imagine she was watching it. Yeah.
And then, promotion. It's weird because, I mean, what's that? By the time we get there, we'll be 13 months through the album cycle. So next year, particularly, is a big moment for us. We need to see what's happening potentially with North America and to be fair as well, having just mentioned those statistics, South America.
Yeah, for
as
sure.
well.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out when to do them, who to do them with, or what performances to do, and the logistics of it. North America is a little more complicated than Europe is in terms of a band of our size and finances and the business structure and so on at the moment. If the right things come along, then we'll certainly jump on them. But that's the promotion side of things from a performance perspective. And then beyond that, it's hard to say. I don't. There's no other video or anything like that coming from the album at this point. So that's generally how the two. But just got to keep chipping away. I think it'd be good to have a bit of time to recoup after Europe. Anyway, I hate saying the word recoup, but it's just my surname, but switched around. My girlfriend's always going on about it. There's a rap name in there, something I'm not going to say. Anyway, I want to tick some bucket list stuff, particularly in terms of performances, because in the end, the performances have been the biggest thing for us. Obviously, we've had 4 albums. It's phenomenal on the art stance on its own, but then to be able to perform in front of numbers of people in different places is the most important thing to us. So, and I like travelling.
Great.
It's one of my favourite things. And I look forward to doing it, and I'm sure the guys do as well.
Mm-hmm.
New places. Hopefully, Japan would be nice too. You know, you'd think at some point maybe we need to be pushing the guitar side of things a bit more. I mean, we've got essentially. Well, yeah. How do you determine who's the best young guitarist in the rock, metal, prog, whatever guitarist in Australia is right now? But I mean,
oh God, yeah.
In terms of what Sam provides as not only an instrumentalist, but as a musician, a songwriter, an engineer, a mixer, the grand provocateur.
Yeah, all bases covered from the sounds of things. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a few guitarists around. Sorry, I mean we forgot to add Plenty to the list before of the phenomenal Australian musicians who are, what's in the water in Australia. Plenty's another one. And,
Yep.
So when you've got that sort of ability, and Adrian's a fantastic guitarist as well, and he's got the long blonde hair as well. So I mean, between the two of them, they should have magazine covers in Japan, left, right, and centre. And we should be playing in front of thousands of people in Tokyo. And I don't know. I'm just sort of rambling. But, that would be nice.
Think big, mate.
Pushing the guitar a bit more would be good because they are phenomenal, and there are Australian guitar magazines. So I hope they get a bit more press as.
I agree with you. Yeah, is that right? There's still a print publication for the Australian Guitar magazine, is there?
I believe so. I'm sure there's going to be at least one or two. But
there used to be. I remember even beyond 10 years ago. God, I only subscribed to one magazine, and I read it in print on purpose because I try to get away from looking at a screen, and that's Success magazine from the States. But I used to get, as a kid, mate, when I say kid, up until my late 20s, I used to get Guitar World. Remember the American publication, which I'm sure is still going? I used to get that religiously. And yeah, they'd often bring out the old. No disrespect to guys like Albert Lee and Al Di Meola, they're absolute legends. We know that, but you do want to see some fresher faces on the cover, don't you? And appealing and tablature, fresher tablature in there than Stairway to Heaven and I'm just using cliches here, of course, but sometimes I get the impression that they're sort of stuck in that mode.
Yeah.
But they've got to sell magazines, I suppose. So if that's what sells magazines, so be it.
Yeah, look, I think if you wanted to talk for 3 or 4 hours about my rudimentary thoughts on the difficulties of the industry as a whole, was almost an unintentional Ponzi scheme in some ways, and in others definitively and intentionally a Ponzi scheme of the way the big things were. But I'm sure we don't want to go into that right now. But
Let's talk about this then, because I'm a bass guitarist, and the reason I actually selected to have a discussion with you is because I was keen to talk about some of your work, because you are an exemplary bass guitarist, and I noticed that you play Music Man basses, and I'm pretty sure you play a version of the exact same one that I've got, which is a Stingray 5 wood grain finish with a black pickguard. Is that still your main instrument?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, wonderful bass guitars, aren't they?
Yeah, she's got a lovely ring to her. It's funny, like it's nice for people to, talk occasionally about what I bring to the albums. Bass guitar is for me is historically the third string. It's kind of funny. I grew up as a vocalist first. We'll say fourth string because I played violin, and that was the sort of the thing that got me moving as an 8-year-old through to high school, and then started playing guitar when I was 12. And the bass guitar side of things, pretty much it's been about a decade now where I've sort of been more focused on it for some kind of esoteric reasons that. But as a result of doing that, got the opportunity to audition for, say, the proto Caligula's Horse, which was a band called Quandary. It featured Sam, myself, Jeff, the former drummer of Caligula's Horse, on drums, and a keyboard player who was a phenomenal musician, and I hope he's still doing stuff. But we did an album, and then Sam was working, had the offcuts and all that, and so on. But I'm still very comfortable, almost more in terms of singing guitar in a lot of ways. So it is funny to get up on stage in front of lots and lots of people, and not only now, particularly now, I feel like a bassist, an actual bassist, as opposed to the imposter. And I know there's a few bassists in this genre in Australia who talk about this imposter syndrome feeling kind of thing, and that they talk about it and go, holy shit, you're talking about it? I really am an imposter compared to you. That sort of thing. But it's nice to not only feel now that bringing Sam always makes a joke when we're doing the recordings or doing the pre-pro and going through. He writes the majority of the easy stuff, and then where I think there's room for change, I definitely I throw ideas, and most of the ideas are accepted. But the joke is that he's going, he's done another one of those Paul McCartneys again. The little runs. It's like,
that's a compliment.
That sort of stuff. It's definitely a compliment, but it's kind of funny. You're talking about that sort of stuff from the biggest musician of all time. You forget not only was he a phenomenal vocalist, but he was actually a really, really interesting bass player in a group that you don't really talk about.
I saw him at Suncorp. Did you go to that gig?
Unfortunately not. No. I was.
I've played many Beatles, because I play in covers bands, so I've played a heap of Beatles tracks. No Paul McCartney tracks, Wings or what have you, but a heap of Beatles stuff. And Please Please Me, and there's a few other bass lines that he did, and they're hard bass lines to play. But then he's singing. The way he's singing on top of it, the guy's a machine. He's an animal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal musician. The wonderful thing about being a musician is that when you listen to music, and then when you're able to play that same music and you learn it and you sit down and it takes you quite some time to get your head around the nuances and the different positions on the fretboard. And I play a 5-string, as I mentioned, like you do. So I try to transpose things to take advantage of the B string, because live it just cuts through, as you well know. You'd be somebody I'm talking to who knows exactly what I mean. 4 strings just don't do it a lot of the time when you've got a lot going on around you with keyboards. You need to really cut underneath that, and I tend to transpose everything onto the to the B string, so an octave down, and it just cuts through beautifully when we play live in these pubs and clubs around Brisbane.
Yeah,
but
well, that's what we do for the low end. So if you've got the lowest end, you go.
yeah. What about amplification? Are you endorsed, or do you have a preference for what you use on stage, or is it just whatever the hire company gives you?
It's interesting. We're actually in the process of transitioning to, or attempting to transition fully to our own in-ear monitoring system. So we're more in the sort of the Tesseract kind of stage.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys are both using Act 8s on, so the
fractals. Yeah.
Pedals on stage. I'm running the Axis X2. I had been running my Matrix power amp through my Mesa Boogie with the 4x10 usually, or hiring 8x10s or whatever, or when I've needed to.
Yeah, whatever's available, really. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but your sound as the Music Man through the fractal, is it?
Yeah, look, I'm, at the moment I'm actually really happy with how it all sounds through that mechanism, and so we are basically trying to minimise. I think it's more about trying to replicate the same stage performance everywhere we can, and given most of our fan base is overseas, and it's going to be cheaper in the long run to do what we're doing. Like the system we're now implementing in rehearsal, it's all portable and it's all controllable by us. So we take it. We even take out another human being out of the equation. As good as many of them are in Europe, particularly for a very, very good monitor guys as well as the people in the front of house. But this system we're using is basically the same night in, night out, with a couple of microphone exceptions for placements and so on for drums. But in terms of what the guitarist and myself and here, it's pretty much going to be the same every night, and that's good. If that takes the heavy lifting out of the equation as well, take a bit of pressure off my old back. So that's
yeah, I know the feeling. I've got a Gallien-Kruger 8x10 RBH, which is the bloody 45 kilogram model, or maybe it's 50 kilograms, but I need it, mate. I need the 800 watts because, again, you know exactly what I'm talking about. 400 watts, I just chew speaker cones up for breakfast, because I'm playing a lot of funk and disco music, pop music, and as soon as you start doing that slap on you're on the B string, but you're sort of up around E, so the 5th fret, you can see the speaker just can't handle it. So you need a lot of power behind you. You do need a lot of power behind you. So I absolutely need it. I use a Gallien-Kruger 1001 RB head, but my sound is actually Sans amp. So I've got a Sans amp that really gives me that nice dual. It feels like an octave that it gives me when I'm playing, just a little bit, just a touch of it. We've got a good sound guy, Tony. Heads up to Tony if he's listening. Tony Farini, he used to be the sound guy down there at Jupiter's in the PA bar. He picked it up actually. That's part of the sound that I've got. But it's I do dream for the day when I've got to set up like what you've got, where regular gigs sort of thing, regular gigs, and it's very hard for me to go into a position again where I could have regular gigs because of all my various commitments, and I'm studying again at Bond Uni. So I've got 2 kids and I'm married as well.
For Bond.
What's that? Sorry.
Where's the campus for Bond? Is that Gold Coast?
Yeah, down at Varsity Lakes, Robina, yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. Oh, well, actually, what my situation is that I actually live in both locations. So I'm up here and I work from up here. The reason I used to work for Telstra, and I worked on the Sunshine Coast and in Cairns for a long time, and I ended up having a base here. So I travel up here quite a bit because I've still got a lot of mates here, and I've got a property that I let out as an Airbnb property. The reason I let it out as an Airbnb property is so I could still stay in it from time to time. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to get away and detune and do my interviews here, for example, and get my radio show organised for 4ZZZ and catch up with some mates. It's really good, actually, provided the wife doesn't have a conniption when I'm away for more than a couple of days. But I actually live on the northern Gold Coast predominantly, so that's why I'm able to go to Bond. Obviously, otherwise I'd be going to USC up here. Yeah,
There you go.
there you go.
There's something you said there. I was going to. I mean, I've just lost it. There you go. Anyway, yes. You're playing, obviously with the lower string and all that stuff, and you're saying the fifth fret E rumbling causing the speaker can't blow out. I happily admit I'm of the 5 or 7 total members over time, but of the 5 positions in the basketball team, shall we say, I'm the one who has the most technical difficulties historically, particularly when it comes to speaker cones. I'm sure that I dropped my B string to A. That's why we're all
Holy
dropped.
shit. Jesus, yeah. That actually answers a question then that I had, because I was going to talk to who's your luthier? Who do you go to get your basses fixed?
Okay, all right. This is the good stuff. Now, this guy definitely deserves the greatest plug of all time. You may have spoken to him before. His name's Ryan Williams. He used to play in a band called Alarm, if I'm not mistaken. He doesn't anymore. He actually used to play. He and Rob from I Built the Sky, who were touring Europe with, and we played a few shows with in recent times, used to play in that band together. But Ryan, who's a very good guitarist, but is Sam put us all onto Ryan. He's based on the Gold Coast. And so, incidentally, for your information,
great.
He goes on Facebook. He goes under the name the Guitar Pro. And he has sorted us out royally. His skill at setting up everything, fixing any of the electronic problems, has been nothing short of phenomenal. Actually, I've been playing my strings a lot higher from when I first got the Stingray in when was that? Sort of April 2015, before the Bloom recording. And I didn't really sort of have a decent look at the setup until before we went to Europe. So it's when Sam put me on to Ryan, and within getting it back from him, just going, oh my goodness, what have I been doing this whole time?
Yeah,
Everything.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah,
just like I was exhausted. From the I'm a terrible slapper. I have a strange phrase. But, I'm not the caliber of, say, Alex from Voyager, who has a phenomenal technique and a phenomenal sound of that sort of stuff in the context of the kind of music we play. But I do it a lot anyway in certain parts, just for the added effect, as you understand yourself.
Yep.
But switching between that and some of the fast playing, and then just really whatever, and once I got that fixed, it's a cakewalk playing this stuff now. It's like that's a noob mistake for years of not being a bass player. Always considering myself a ring-in kind of feeling. But I think now it's much easier. Maybe that's helped as well.
Well, it does help. I mean, basses are like old Jaguars, I always say. They're like 1950s or 60s Jaguars, beautiful to look at, but they frequently have problems. And I go to Gary Albrecht at Brendale, or Strathpine there. Yeah. He's a bit like the experience that you had with your guy. Nothing against the guys I used before I found Gary. But Gary has just revolutionised the way that I trust. It's actually about trust, I think, with me. Meaning that, and I think you'll know exactly what I'm saying again, is that when I get up there on stage and we're playing 3 sets and I'm sweating all over the bass and probably a bit of beers dribbling down it or what have you as well, because I'm drinking it quickly between songs or whatever, I know that it's not going to fail on me. But active pickups is what we've got, and the battery, I've had issues with the battery, the cable severing and the like, and the Music Man thing, because they're not a great design apparently. But the fixes that he has done to my basses, I just trust it completely, that it don't matter how many people I'm playing in front of. I've never played into anywhere near the amount of people that you have outside of B&S balls. But you still don't want to be thinking about, is my bass going to stuff up tonight on a New Year's Eve gig at Bundaberg Brothers Leagues Club?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I've had many, like our first Europe tour. I think I went through the whole thing with a connection problem with the input jack, It didn't affect the shows, but I was always thinking about it. The 24 shows, there was just like, oh, cool, I made it through the night without the problem. Whereas I went to Europe last year for the 9 shows after Rhino had taken a look at it, and I didn't even think about it. It's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're just getting up there and focusing on being in the moment and putting on a great performance, rather than, oh my God, my speakers are about to die because I'm pushing it too hard, or I can hear the bass is sort of fading in and out. I don't know whether it's because of my dodgy wireless or whatever it might be. There's so many for non-musicians out there that listen to this. There are about, I think I counted at one stage, and this is no bullshit, there were in excess of 20 points of failure between you and your fingers on the bass string and the speaker coming out of the speaker cone and or the PA. That's 20 points of failure, 20 things that you've got to be aware that can potentially go wrong when you're setting up for a performance. That's why we get so stressed at times.
Look, I think I reckon I've had about 17 of those 20 things happen to me. I haven't had a string break. I can tell you that now. So that's,
I hadn't. That's likewise, yeah.
Yeah. But pretty much everything else under the sun has happened to me. Actually, the other thing about that is how you then cope with something that's going wrong on stage, particularly the stuff where you are still fine to the audience, but you're not fine to you. We played Canberra last year, and the Matrix head blew up, which of course we didn't have a backup because I didn't have a backup, so I used someone else's. But what happened? But then there was something wrong with the cab that was there at the venue. So it was cutting in and out and fizzing and whatever, as well as my fallback speaker at the front of stage, which was predominantly, it was partly for the bass because the cab was routed, but then for my vocals as well. So basically I played the entire set in Canberra, not hearing a single thing I did, and still felt at the end of the show that I'd played one of the best shows on the tour. And a couple of our mates down there who'd been watching came up afterwards and said, that was phenomenal. I said, yeah, that's good, because I couldn't hear a damn thing.
Isn't that interesting? So that was all feel and just all of your training and rehearsing kicking in.
Not only the bass, but the vocals as well. It was pretty insane.
Oh, that's nasty. Yeah. Without vocals, mate,
5 years ago, I would not have coped with that situation, to be honest. So.
Well, you've become a professional. That's what that means. You've become a legit road warrior to be able to manage that, because the bass is one thing.
Semi-professional, but definitely a road warrior.
Yeah, well, but you know what I'm saying, though. I mean, that's the sign of a professional musician, if ever I've heard of one. For those out there that are listening, if you cannot hear yourself sing, you cannot pitch. It's that simple, because you're talking about, there's so many other variables, again, with other people. If you're singing, and I assume you're harmonising as well, and if somebody else hits that note and you're on a third which bleeds into a fourth, and they're still on the fifth and they're meant to go to a seventh or whatever it might be, it's a shit of a thing. It's an absolute shit. I've been in the position myself and I've just stopped singing. When I can't hear myself and I know that it's clashing with somebody, it's just a feeling or a vibe thing that you get, or when you can just hear each other's ambient voices, so not the amplified voice, but the ambient voice of each other across the stage. Sometimes you can only rely on that. And I've done a lot of, I'd never call it session work, but turn up and play, because I play covers. You just turn up and you meet everybody on the night. You don't even know everybody's name, and you shake their hand and then you disappear into the dark and go home at the end of the night. But I've done a heap of that stuff. And you're working with musicians who you don't understand what their natural style is. So you've got no point of reference. So you've got to really keep everything as basic as you possibly can. Even on the bass, people don't understand. I mean, the bass gets although there are a series of memes out there about the bass not being that hard to play, but Jesus, if anybody wants to try and get up on stage and play it when they've been unprepared and they've got a full set or a couple of sets in front of them, good luck to you. It's not happening.
Definitely.
You know, it's confidence destroying.
Yeah.
You know. So. Mate, we've covered a lot of ground, you know, on this conversation. So is there anything else that you wanted to share with people? Because obviously the reason for the conversation was to talk about the Love Conquers All East Coast tour, but I reckon we've talked about a whole bunch of really interesting things that people might not have anticipated that are really worthwhile.
Well, look, I obviously can't wait to play these shows. It's going to be a phenomenal trip. It was a series of short trips, and hopefully next year, particularly, we'll get back to the full Australian routine as best we can. But yeah, we're just really enjoying that. It's a great time for all this kind of music from an Australian perspective and from an international perspective. We are absolutely. I am an atheist, but I'll use the term blessed because to be able to share the stage with some of our mates, and then our heroes who become mates, and phenomenal talent all over the place, and not all the same kind of talent. There's lots of different little intricacies and nuances and idiosyncrasies within these other groups that we get to hang out with, which we really appreciate and we learn from all the time. It's nice to be, particularly in the solid unit that the band is. There's a camaraderie that is stronger than at any time there ever has been with the band, and I think it's nice to. Looking forward to. I think particularly with Josh and Adrian to get them. They've done the first overseas tour, but they've got the big one coming up as well, and it'll be really interesting to have that different experience on the big tour bus this time as well. So as opposed to the sort of the small stuff with hotels and whatever. So it'd be good because we're touring with two Australian bands for the Europe tour. So we're hanging out with some of the cream of Australian music for the next 4 months. But I mean, obviously with them, the Las Conquers All-Star tour.
Yep.
James Norbert-Vanier, fantastic guitarist, and his combo. You want to talk about bass players? You got to check out Liam Horgan. He's just absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
The real deal. I'm definitely an imposter compared to Liam, and Liam on drums as well. There's two Liams in the band, and then Opus of a Machine. So I mean, Zach, phenomenal musician, guitarist, our former guitarist from Caligula's Horse. They're coming up to their second album. This is what that part of the tour is going to be about for them. I've heard a couple of the songs. I haven't heard the whole thing. I missed that last opportunity last week. But by all accounts, it's going to be a phenomenal release. They're a great band. They're good dudes, and it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun doing these shows coming up with them. And so it's a good time to be alive.
A lot of humility in those comments, mate. Well done to you. Congratulations on a stellar career to date. And I mean that because I know it's not easy being an Aussie band playing even rock music. Let's just call it rock music, to our very early point about how do we define the sort of music you play. I know it's not easy and you've got other professional commitments that you're looking after via Uber and what have you, but good on you for forging forward. You are, mate, and I will say to people listening, you are a very good bass player. You've undersold yourself, and I don't blame you because you're a humble guy, but you are a very good bass player and you're worthy of emulation. So anybody that's out there and is starting to pick up the bass guitar and starting to become interested, the fella that I'm interviewing here, go and check out some of his YouTube clips with the band Caligula's Horse because they're very good stuff and great vocals too, by the way.
Thank you. I think I'm going to be underselling myself for decades to come. Trust me, Andy.
All right, mate. Good on you. Thanks so much for the interview. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was a conversation between myself and Dave Couper, who is the bassist in Brisbane-based Caligula's Horse. Really appreciate that you've listened.